What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of CAGED, and on this episode of interAXEtion, we're going to talk the CAGED system and Cleartone Strings. How's everybody doing this week? Thanks for checking in for another edition of interAXEtion. I really enjoyed the conversation and the questions that are coming in. So this one's going to be a little bit short, but let's jump into it. First question. Opinion on the CAGED system. There is a never-ending debate between 3-note per string and the CAGED system. Argument against the CAGED is that it's inconsistent, limits your playing, and all that jazz. What's your opinion? Well, this is a really interesting question, and I've seen some of the debate kind of going on. It always pops up in my feed on Facebook, and you know, I'm not one to sit in forums and start debating people, but recently there's a great guitar player and a great teacher named Levi Clay. He writes articles for Premier Magazine or Premier.com, Premier Guitar, and fantastic. Definitely check out his stuff. And I think he recently posted something like refuting Tom Hess, and I got into it because I like what Levi has to say, and I don't really understand why people can hate on anything, right? Because for me, it's all about fretboard vision, unlocking the fretboard, and being the best musician and guitar player that you can be. Now, when I first started learning, I was mostly self-taught, and I grew up listening to music, and I played music that basically used 3-note per string, right? It's very pattern-based, it's very fast, it can be easily become a trick, right? To do some fast legato runs and some fast tapping runs, and it helps you visualize the fretboard. And then I learned the CAGED system, and for those of you who don't know what the CAGED system is, it's a system based on the fundamental chord shapes on the guitar, right? Because the guitar is nothing but shapes and patterns, right? So if you learn those shapes and patterns, theoretically you kind of unlock the fretboard and kind of free up your motion, your playing a little bit. So you have your basic fundamental chords, C, A, G, E, and D, your basic open position chord shapes, and those are they just repeat on the guitar. And there's a scale pattern for every one of those shapes, right? Which is great because then you learn the arpeggio of that chord, and if you're playing a chord, you can just go up and down melodically if you need to. And another thing too is that you can play chord progressions in essentially like one position just by going through those chords, just like you would see a folk singer go through those chords in open position. Now, I don't understand how anybody could hate or dismiss something that people learn from, right? Because we all learn different, and we're all prisoners to our own subjective reality, right? We all learn differently. So if you happen to learn 3-note per string, but that's all you do and you dismiss everything else, well, you're limiting yourself. You're limiting your playing, you're limiting your expression, right? So, and vice versa. If you just do the CAGED and you don't want to learn anything else, well then again, you're limiting. And I don't understand how anybody would want to limit your playing or shut off anything that could help you become a better player, right? People say there are limitations to the CAGED system, and again, I never felt that when I was learning it because it was just a new perspective. And for me, that's always what it's about. Take a fresh perspective, take a different look at something through somebody else's eyes. Usually that has some sort of revelation built into it, all right? And you know, for me as a player personally now, I don't ever go, oh, I'm going to play a 3-note per string lick right now. Or I'm never going to go, oh, I'm using this box from the CAGED system. That's not how I think, that's not how I approach the guitar, right? I like to think that whatever I hear in my head, I have the tools to express myself and play that, all right? 3 notes per string they all have their pros and cons, and they're all both very useful, okay? For me now, personally, I've kind of evolved a little bit. Tom Quayle has had a pretty big influence on how I approach fretboard vision. Over the last couple of years, he's a phenomenal fusion player. Check him out. And he presents it in a way where you can play 3 scales. You can play a scale 3 different ways, right? And that's it. And those patterns interlock with each other. So now you can take your CAGED boxes or your pentatonic boxes or your 3-note per string groupings and break them down into octave patterns and see how they all connect. And for me, that has completely changed the way I approach melody and soloing and putting together ideas, because it just works for me, and I like that. And you know, I'm no longer thinking I'm in this position, I'm playing this chord, or I'm playing this arpeggio, I'm playing this box, anything like that. I know what I'm playing, I know where I am, and these patterns and all connect. And it allows me to go up and down arpeggios, add scale tones, add chordal extensions, and that works for me. So if you are a die-hard 3-note per string, that's all I play, you're probably a metal player, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, and enjoy it. If you have no interest in any other styles of music, then that's fine, right? Because I guess they lend themselves to how they sound and the tricks you can make them sound like. It's when you're playing 3-note per string, it's very easy to just go in one position, and it sounds like you're going 1,000 miles per hour. But really, the pattern is telling you what to play, and that's what we never want as guitar players. All right. So for me, anything that helps you take a different perspective on the guitar, look at something a different way, approach something from a way that you might have done it before, it's going to make you a better guitar player. So learn anything and everything you can. So, cool. So, on the last episode of interAXEtion, we talked about string gauge for drop D tuning and other drop D tunings. And there's something that I wanted to bring to attention because, as you guys know, I use Cleartone Strings, and they recently did something really cool, which I wanted to share with you guys. They now allow you to order custom sets of strings, right? So, especially for you extended range guitar players, your 7 and 8 strings, or your drop tunings, sometimes the standard pack doesn't really work. Maybe you want your low 7 string a little thicker, or you want your highs to be a little thinner. Whatever you like. I personally like a hybrid set, like 9s on the bottom, 10s on top. That kind of works for me. So I recently put together two 7-string packs, kind of a lighter and a heavier gauge for my own custom. You can just tell them what gauge you want for every string, and they put it together for you. So I wanted to share that with you, because if you want to try out their strings, they last a really long time, and they sound great for recording. There's a promo code, CAGED, you get 10% off. It applies for international orders as well. You just have to pay shipping, because that's how it goes. So yeah, that's about it. I want to share that with you guys. Hope you guys take advantage of it. Try some new strings, because they sound great, and I enjoy them. So that's it for this episode of interAXEtion. Thanks for checking out. Thanks for your comments. Let's get the conversation going about the CAGED system. I'm sure we'll talk about it again. And as always, let me know what you come up with. Until then, I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.